I had never written anything. I must have been about 25, I guess. I'm really struggling to figure out, just how to, put my thoughts on the page. And and so at the end of that year, the professor, you had to sit down and meet. I got a C plus in poetry. This is grad school, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
I didn't even know it was legal to get a C plus in grad school, but it is. So I got a C plus, and the professor told me, and she said, I don't think this is for you, really, And it just brought up all this other stuff. And so I was like, oh, okay. And then, but thankfully, I had another person. It was we had these tutorials where you met one-on-one with somebody. A guy named Lou Asikoff, who's a poet who I'm still very close to. And I was like, oh yeah, Professor so-and-so told me I should quit. And he was just like, he told me, he's like, no, you're on to something, And I've been really struggling, in class. Writing's hard. I wasn't struggling anymore. I was just struggling. Um, and he said, you're on to something. And he said something to me that really stayed with me. He was like, people are going to learn how to read you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, but it just, the timing was really good because at the end of that year, I had finally written a poem that I liked. I was like, oh, I kind of like this poem. And I remember reading it in class, and there was this one kid who was like, I fucking hate this poem. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Blah, 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 blah. And so at the end of that year, summer went by, and then we had the same classmates, but we had a different professor. I had Ginsberg. And Ginsberg was like, bring in your best poem. We're going to start from there. So I brought in that poem because I thought it was my best poem, read it, and I didn't have to say anything about the poem. The same kid that hated the poem was going, oh, Paul's a genius. He's making a reference to this and that. This is an allusion to blah, 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 I was just like, and then, so I asked him, like, after class, I said, dude, you hated this poem, like, before. I was like, what happened? And he said, nah, I was in New York for 3 months,
Right.
And it just, yeah, but I was, really struggling with, who's responsible to do what, And it wasn't like whatever I do, they'll understand. It wasn't like that. But it just, for me, it was like this thing of, oh man, there's so much stuff going on. We're just not all in the same place all the time, and it's always shifting. And so, but that was just really important to me to see somebody do that kind of 180, And it just, I don't know, I don't want to say it relaxed me or anything, but it just allowed me to continue taking my time, really, and which I've been doing. So yeah.